Hey, what's up, everyone? Jeremy here from Actually Understand, where you watch the video and then you actually understand whatever we're talking about. Today's video is the third video in my playlist, SAT Toolbox. This is SAT Toolbox number 3. Um, a lot, some of these videos are good standalone videos where you don't really have to watch all of the previous videos to understand the concept. I would say this is one of those videos where if you just clicked on this and this is the first video from my channel you're watching, you don't have to click off. Definitely don't click off. In fact, the only time you should be clicking off is if you're going to subscribe to my channel and go check it out or like and comment or anything like that. Otherwise, you can stay here. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter video because basically what this video is I don't know every single word in the dictionary. And probably I'm going to say most of you also don't, right? Probably all, but maybe not all. Maybe one of you memorized the dictionary. If you're that student, then you can click off of this video, you crazy person. But for the rest of you, if we are doing a vocab problem on the SAT, and we know all of the answer choices, awesome. If we don't know one of the answer choices, still awesome. Not really, but still awesome because we can get that question right just as often as if we did know all the answer choices. Basically, there's no penalty. There's no, nothing bad happens if we don't know one of the words. We can still get it right 100% of the time. And in this video, I'm going to show you how. If you don't know two or more of the answer choices, it is less than 100%. The chance that you get it right is less than 100%, but there's still a good chance you get it right if you go through a very specific process of what you want to do. And so I'm going to explain all of that in this video, and I'm going to use this problem as an example. I have a little, not really a script, but I have things, a little checklist of the things I want to say in this video. And so I would say definitely stick around through the whole thing because there's actually a lot of little things I want you guys to know in order to get vocab questions right 100% of the time. But for those of you who are not as patient, what we're going to first do right away is let's go through this question and let's say we don't know one of the answer choices. We don't know what the word means at all. And I'm going to show you guys how to still get it right. And so we're going to do that now. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use the four-step process. I introduced the four-step process in my last video. And so I'm not going to go into great detail about what the benefits are of it, but there are many. So please check out my last video. If you want to do really well in the reading and writing section of the SAT, then definitely check out my last video, which explains the four-step process. We do these same four steps for every single reading and writing question, and then we always get the right answer. The basic one-sentence AI generated summary, right? Because AIs give us a lot of summaries. The AI generated summary of the four-step process is we read the question, then we know what type of problem it is. We read the text, we break down as needed. As we read the text, if we find it confusing, hard to follow, it said something we don't fully understand, we break it down, quote unquote, by asking ourselves a very specific question. We want to answer the question of, in my own words, what is the last sentence saying to me? What information am I getting? What point is it making? What is it trying to tell me? And if you take a second, just a few moments, to try to answer that question, every time you are reading the text and you find the last paragraph or sentence was confusing or you're not following, by the time you get to the end of the text, you won't have to ever read the text again because you will have a really good understanding of it because you broke it down. And when we break it down, we ask ourselves that question because really that's what breaking down the text is. Rereading the text is not going to be something that is necessarily helpful. So asking ourselves, in my own words, what does this mean? That is going to be helpful. Step 3, answer the question in your own words. In short, basically, we're not actually trying to read the minds of the College Board. We're not trying to figure out what the right answer choice is before we read the answer choice. All we're trying to do with step 3 is we're saying, if I could say anything here, what would I say? Because maybe we come up with the exact same answer that's one of the answer choices, but maybe we don't, and that's fine, because by thinking about what the right answer choice would be if we could say anything, consciously or subconsciously, we're thinking about what goes into the right answer choice. What am I looking for the right answer? And that's basically the point of step 3, is to force yourself to think about what goes into the right answer. And the way to actually get your brain to think about that is by trying to come up with your own answer. Once you've done that, you've put in all of the blood, sweat, and tears you need to for the problem. All you then have to do is find the right answer choice out of the 4 choices. So that's the 4-step process in short. There's definitely more to it, so definitely check out my last video. But for those of you who just want to see the problem done, this is how we would go about it, using the 4-step process if we didn't know one of the answer choices. So I'm going to mark this off because we're not going to even try to guess what this means. We're not going to do anything like that. Also, I'll remind those of you watching, if we don't know more than one of the words, if we don't know 2 or 3 of the words, we can still get to the right answer. We just have to do other stuff as well, right? So first, let's focus on if we don't know one of the words. All right. Step 1, read the question. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? All right. When we see that question, we know it's a vocab problem. Read the text, break down as needed. Whether the reign of a French monarch such as Hugh Capet or Henry I was historically consequential or relatively uneventful, its trajectory was shaped by questions of legitimacy and therefore cannot be understood. All right, already pausing, going to break down the text. What is this saying to me? Okay, whether or not the reign of this guy was important or not important, its trajectory was shaped by questions of legitimacy. So we were the way the reign ended up going was shaped by whether or not he was actually supposed to be there. Okay? And therefore, because of that, because we're questioning whether or not he actually should have the throne the whole time, cannot be understood. So we don't really understand what happened without a corollary understanding. For those of you who know what this word means, that's awesome. For those of you who don't, we're going to not define that word just in case you don't, because we can still get to the right answer without knowing a lot of the words in any given reading and writing problem, without some other type of understanding of the factors that allowed the monarch to blank his right to hold the throne. Okay, that allowed him to obtain his right to hold the throne, his monarch to something, his right to hold the throne. Step 2, read the text, break down as needed. We've done that. We understand what they're saying. Whether or not this guy's reign was important or not, the way it went was shaped by questions of legitimacy, and therefore we can't understand it without also understanding the factors that allowed him to blank his right to hold the throne. Well, if we're talking about, now we're doing step 3. What would I say if I could say anything here, not looking at the answer choices? Well, if we're talking about this guy not being the legitimate king or whatever, and we're talking about his right to hold the throne, what allowed him to blank his right to hold the throne, I just want to say obtain. What allowed him to obtain his right to hold the throne, right? Because if he didn't actually have the right, then how did he get the crown, right? Something I want to emphasize there is that I didn't put a lot of effort into coming up with the word obtain, right? I almost thought of it right away when I read the text. And that's the point of step 3. It's not to spend an obscene amount of time trying to come up with the perfect answer. Maybe obtain is the word they're looking for, maybe not. It fits well enough in the text logically that it seems like a fine answer choice to me, and that's all that matters when you do step 3. As soon as you have that, you can move on. And so as soon as we have the word obtain, which we now have, we just move on. We say, let's find the correct answer choice. All we have to do is look at the 3 words we do know and say, are they a perfect match to my own answer? If so, as soon as we find that, we don't even have to look at any other answer choices. We just pick that and move on. if it's not a perfect match, if it doesn't otherwise fit perfectly in the text, the right answer to any problem is 100% right. Not 95% right, but 100% right. So if an answer mostly works but not perfectly, that is the wrong answer. Because the right answer doesn't mostly work. It fully works. 100%. It's perfect. So, reciprocate. Well, immediately, reciprocate and obtain. Does that mean the same thing? No. Obtain is to get something. Reciprocate is, using an example sentence, I moved in and my neighbors made me banana bread. I reciprocated their kindness by walking their dog 3 times a week. Right? Someone does something to you, you show that thing back, you're reciprocating that. So that doesn't mean obtain. And reciprocate is right to hold the throne doesn't really make sense. Something that I want you guys to do is, obviously, if you have the time, you can plug in reciprocate and really think about, does it work or not? But honestly, we don't really want to do that, especially on a time test where we only have so long for each problem. That's the point of step 3, is that, does this fit with the word obtain? No. So I just really want to move on. Annotate. Annotate means to, I'm annotating a text when I kind of highlight stuff and write stuff, in the edges of the of wherever the text is. And so that's annotating something. Does that mean obtain? No, not at all. That makes no sense, right? Annotating wouldn't make sense here. Doesn't mean the word obtain. Let me move on. Disengage. Okay, when I disengage the throttle on the jet, I lower it, right? I stop pushing the accelerator, right? When we disengage, we stop something. We stop engaging in something. We stop doing something or interacting with something. Does that mean the same as obtain? No. So obviously, I'm going through it out loud, and I'm saying all of my thinking just so that we can all be following. But when you're doing this question yourself in your head, it's very quick. All you have to do is think, match with obtain? No. Does it make sense here? I don't think so. Annotate, match with obtain? No, I don't think so. Disengage, match with obtain? No. Does it fit here? I don't think so. Takes very small amount of time. Then immediately we pick C, we move on. Because if none of them perfectly match, without any doubt, doesn't matter that we don't know what the word means, without any doubt, we just pick the unknown word and we move on. And that will 100% of the time get you the right answer. Now, if that's all you wanted to see, then that is how we do that. Definitely stick around, though, because what I'm now about to explain is how do we do it if we don't know more than one answer choice. And the answer to that is we want to gamble a little bit, but mostly use logic to get to a point where we have some type of understanding or definition or assumed definition of 3 of the 4 words. Once we have some understanding or a definition or assumed definition of 3 of the 4 words, we can do what we just did. And we know what we just did, if we don't know one of the words, but we do have a definition for the other 3, then we can get the right answer 100% of the time. So, let's say we didn't know, let's also erase this, so we can look at the word buttress. At the end, I will also tell you what buttress means and corollary. I'll just tell you guys now since we already read the text. A corollary understanding, 2 things that are corollary are like, how do I explain it? I want to give like an example, but happening at the same time, basically, without a parallel. It's a synonym for parallel. So without having an understanding at the same exact time of the factors that allowed him to So if we don't know buttress, and let's say we also don't know disengage or reciprocate, right? Let's say annotate is the only word we know here, right? Not a good position to be in. But if that's the case, what we want to do is, out of the words we don't know, right? What are we saying we don't know? We don't know what buttress means. We don't know what disengage means. We don't know what reciprocate means. We want to, any words that have other words within them, we want to try to first figure out what those mean. Basically what we're going to do now is, if I have to gamble a little bit, if I have to make an educated guess about what certain words mean, I want to pick the words that are easiest to do that with in order to increase my chances of getting it right to the max, right? So between buttress and disengage, which one is it more likely that I'm going to guess a definition for correctly? Well, disengage, right? Because maybe we know engage means to start something or do something or interact with something. And then even if we don't know what this Latin part of the prefix is, I would say general rule, if I see a word within another word, and so this word is just the word engage with some other prefix, assume it means the opposite of the word engage or whatever word's inside it. Because obviously not all of the prefixes you see on words mean the opposite, but if you don't know what that specific prefix means, you're most likely to get it right if you just guess that means the opposite. So engage is to interact with something, do something. What does disengage mean? Well, I'm going to assume because of this prefix, it just means the opposite of engage. So to stop engaging with something, to not engage with something, to not interact with something. And so that will be our first guess. And so now we have disengage, right? We already have annotate because we're going to say we do know what annotate means. Between buttress and reciprocate, which one of those is more common? Which one of those have we heard more often in life? Probably reciprocate. Maybe we're going to be able to correctly guess. And I will say you have to give some type of definition because you can't move forward without some type of definition for at least 3 of the words. So you're going to have to try to come up with some type of definition or some vibe of what this might mean. And so maybe we could just say, I remember during Christmas we were talking about the neighbors making us cookies, and someone said we're going to have to reciprocate their kindness by baking them cookies back. So maybe that's something to do with someone doing something and you do it back to them. Something like that maybe. Maybe we can get to that point, right? And so as long as I can say, okay, maybe it has something to do with doing something again, doing something back, right? Then we can say, I'm going to assume I'm correct. You always want to just assume you're correct and then keep moving. Now we have definitions, or what we assume to be correct definitions, of 3 of the 4 words, and then we just do what we just did. We don't guess what buttress means as well, because it's more likely we're going to get the correct definition of a word that is more common, or that we just pick as saying, I'm more likely, I feel like I know what that might mean more likely than buttress, right? And so that's what we want to do. And are your chances of getting the definitions that you're guessing 100% correct? Are your chances of getting it right 100%? No. But statistically, logically, this is the most likely way to get to the right answer. Because if you got to that point, even if you only knew the word annotate, you would still end up getting buttress because the definitions we came up with don't really fit here, and then buttress is the right answer. That's how we do it if we don't know more than one of the words. Let me think. Any other tricks I can give you guys for this? Okay, I cut it because I was sat here for a moment thinking about what else I could say. And the only other thing I would say is keep in mind, guys, that some part of our brain, when we sit down on test day, some part of our brain is saying to ourselves, this is the test that's going to decide my future. I have to do so well on it. It's so important, right? It's hard to not think that. So on test day, out of all of the many, many students I've had, I've never had any issues with anyone being overconfident. That's never been an issue. Nerves and stress about test day make us second guess ourselves. It gives us self-doubt. And it's hard to emotionally get ourselves to stop thinking that, even impossible, I might say, to some extent, to not have some level of wanting to second guess ourselves or having some self-doubt, especially on test day when you're taking the test. And so all you want to do is make it a rule that automatically I'm going to assume I'm right when I guess certain things. Because whether or not I'm right or wrong, my first gut instinct to what a word might mean or what the text is trying to say. For time efficiency and for accuracy, you're much more likely correct than not, especially if it was like your gut feeling. I don't really know what reciprocate means, but immediately when I read it, I think it might mean having something to do with giving something that you got or something like that. I don't know, right? But if that's your gut feeling, always you want to be overconfident. You want to just think that. As soon as you think that, say, I'm correct. I'm going to assume I'm correct, and I'm going to move forward as if that's 100% correct. Because you're more likely to be correct than some second guessing and doubt, and then thinking something else. And also for time efficiency, you are pretty likely correct, or at least your chances of being correct are as high as they are ever going to be with that gut instinct feeling. And then from there, you don't want to spend time just for the sake of the fact that it's a time test. You don't want to spend time then thinking about it more. You want to just move on. And I'd say that's it for this video. Please, if you watch this whole video, please comment, I watched this whole video. You don't have to comment, I like the video. You can comment, I dislike the video. But please comment something. Comment your favorite word. Comment your favorite music artist of 2012. Even if you don't have one. Comment someone who makes music in 2012. Why not, right? Comment whatever you want. But please do me a favor, engage with the channel, like, comment, and subscribe if you like this. And if you have a specific question or a specific thing that you want a better understanding of, definitely comment that down below, because I'm more than happy to, if I see some comments with some likes talking about, oh, go over this question, go over that question, go over this concept, I will go out of my way to make that the next video, even if I wasn't planning on having that be my next video. And if you have any feedback for me, please also comment that down below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.